stopping the violence in America. Every week we have some dynamic speakers that helps us to understand that there's different segments and different areas and different categories of violence that are happening across this nation that also is reflecting what's happening across the world. But America is such an important place that can influence the world either right or left. And so we feel that these webinars are giving us the insights that we need in order to begin to look at how we can not only individually, but collectively work together hand in hand to reduce violence that is plaguing our society. It's like every day you come on the news, you just every moment there's some violence going on. It's like a epidemic that is going on right now. But epidemic is only for a moment. As long as we can begin to find the root causes and the cures and put them into and execute them, will we be able to reduce violence in America. So today we are so honored to have Lynette Gray Bull, and I'd just like to give her, I don't normally read all of it, but I want to read all of it because it's so wonderful about who Lynette Gray Bull is. She is an active advocate for Indian country for over 10 years. Ms. Gray Bull is the founder director of Not Our Native Daughters, an organization that focuses on the work and education of human trafficking, which is such a problem, and the missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls. Lynette also serves on the Wyoming Governor's Task Force for missing, murdered Indigenous persons, and the Wyoming Human Trafficking Task Force. Lynette's prior work was a chair of the Arizona Commission, Indian Affairs at the governor's office in 2014 to 2016. Ms. Gray Bull also advocate for diversity and inclusion of Native Americans, Indigenous preservation of land and water rights, child protection, cultural competency, environment justice, and voting rights. Oh, she's busy. And she is the former trainer and advisor, consultant for DOJ Amber Alert program. Lynette has worked as a subject matter expert and tribal liaison from various research and documentary projects. In 2018, Ms. Gray successfully led a team, the Wyoming Democratic Party, to campaign for Representative Andy Clifford. Lynette was selected to be the 2020 Wyoming delegate for the DNC, and she also accepts the nomination, the U.S. House of Representative candidate for the Wyoming Democratic Party. Congratulations. Although Representative Cheney had her seat, she was proud to be the first Native American to run for federal office in the state of Wyoming. Lynette is dedicated to advocating democracy in the Indian country. She provides congressional testimonies on the tribal heritage and the Grizzly Bear Protection Act, and in May 2019 in the Tribal Youth Suicide Prevention, those are another problem, and 2016 for the American Psychological Association on Capitol Hill. Not Our American Daughters has educated, Not Our American Daughters have educated over 7,000 professionals, both in urban and tribal communities since 2010. Ms. Gray Bull strives for the growth of the future where Native Americans prevail in all the same areas where other ethnicities succeed. I don't know if you're ethnicity. You're the Americans. Yeah. All right. God bless you and welcome. We are just excited to hear what you have to share with us today.
Thank you so much, Reverend, for that honorable introduction. I'm always, always feel blessed. I always feel honored when I have an opportunity to share my heart, my passion, why I'm compelled to do the work that I do. I don't have much of an introduction. I think you've covered it all with my bio there. I do wear many hats, but one thing I will say is that I continue to serve community. I continue to serve people, and I continue to serve the issues that we need to have lend voice to. And I just want to kind of state that the Indigenous voice has never been silent. The Indigenous voice has never been not there, but the Indigenous voice, people just were not listening and haven't been listening. So I'm grateful again for this opportunity to be on your podcast to talk further about the issues that we face. I think you can pick anything in Indian country and there's an issue there, or there's a seat that we haven't yet filled in those spaces. So thank you again for allowing this space for me to come and share my experiences, and then again, my passion.
Well, thank you so much. Could you give us some insights? Actually, when I was reading your bio and hearing that there are unsolved murders, people of women, some of the things that we don't even think about. We have one other sister that helps us understand what's going on in Iran, but there's also atrocities that are going on toward women in the Indigenous communities as well here in Native Americans. Could you give us a little bit more insight on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I say this every time I introduce myself, but, I'm here before you all as a full-blooded Native American woman. I am both Hunkpapa Lakota and Northern Arapaho. My ancestors, of course, here, my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and all of my descendants have suffered so much atrocities on the hands of the U.S. government when it comes to, the whole colonial era. And the colonial era, the impact of the colonial era still exists today. We're still unraveling and identifying issues within Indian country on how to heal, how to promote healing, how do we come together, and how do we overcome the things that have happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So, with that being in place, we have a historical trauma, a generational trauma within tribal communities. And with that taken into consideration, we have all of these other issues that tribal communities have yet to advance in and progress in. And so, again, I stand before you, a full-blooded Native American woman, and the statistics that hang over my head is that I am the most stalked, raped, murdered, assaulted, suffer domestic violence than any other ethnicity or race in our country. We have the highest statistics in violence. We have the highest statistics in sexual assault, and we have the highest statistics of lack of justice and remedy to these victimization and the lack of a clear avenue to justice when we are facing these issues, not just for women, just for Indigenous people overall, male and children included. So as you can see, it is a mountain of issues that we face. But I think one thing that is the reason why MMIW or MMIP, Missing Murdered Indigenous Women or Missing Murdered Indigenous Persons, have kind of started to get traction and started to trend throughout our society is because other people care about this. Other people want to care about this. Other people want to do something about it. So I say all that to say that we still have a lot to do in the form of every aspect of public safety, of resources, in my community and the many other tribal communities that I serve, there's not even a shelter. There's not even domestic violence or a sexual assault shelter. And to kind of give you a bird's eye view of it is there's 575 different tribes within the United States. Only 58 of those tribal communities have a domestic violence or sexual assault or human trafficking safe house shelter. So if you see the issue and you see the comparison of the financial and the resources that is not there for us, this continues to ignite the missing, murdered, and Indigenous persons crisis that we are facing.
Wow, yeah, that's what we were discussing here is that, and I thank you so much for enlightening us on the people that have been here for thousands of years, and somehow they're not even in our peripheral view, and now, even though a lot of us have a little ancestry somewhere along the line, in the mixing process, as you already know, but we still don't have any peripheral view or, awareness of our brothers and sisters who are the indigenous people here in America. But one of the things that we did, which you did share, was that what I think the people don't appreciate. You can't appreciate what you don't recognize, right? So anyway, if you don't appreciate the different traumas that people go through, races go through, or a group of people go through, that sometimes contributes to more domestic violence, if you say violence to women. There's root cause to many of the madness that we see in the world today. Also, you did, and I really appreciate what you just, those things that you just shared. Also, you mentioned the high rate of suicide. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, actually, I worked on this back in 2013, 2014. I was working and advocating for tribal youth suicide. And back in during that time that I was working on this issue, I was working closely with the Pine Ridge Oglala Sioux Nation in South Dakota tribe. The reason why I was working closely with this tribe to advocate for more resources, specifically for that community, because they were facing, anywhere to 5 to 6 suicides per month in their community. And let me just give you another, scope here. The Oglala Sioux Nation, their reservation is pretty vast. There's different communities within that reservation. Probably an estimate 20,000 or so, tribal members that live on the reservation. So to have that number per month in such a small community was an epidemic and was a crisis. And not to say that other tribal communities were not facing the suicides, the youth suicides in that area, but I know specifically, some of the statistics and cases out of the Oglala Nation. The youngest reported suicide was 7 years old. So the devastation of that issue that still is prevalent today. Native youth still holds the highest statistics in suicide. Native Americans as a whole have the highest suicide rate. And again, it goes back to the historical trauma, tribes having lack of resources. We have lack of pathways to healing. All these bridges that have yet to be made are just not there for us. So, when it comes to suicide, if you live in the urban setting, there's suicide numbers, there's organizations, there's nonprofits, there's state programs, there's a plethora of programs there to assist with suicide, whether someone is aware of it or, not aware, there's something there. But I can tell you for certain, for Indian country, on the many different issues that we face, that the resources and the healing pathways are just not there.
Wow, amazing. One, you said 6 a month. That's a phenomenon. That's epidemic. If one a year is already heartbreaking. Just to hear youth, but to say 6 a month, that's an incredible number to share. Yeah. So, what do you think? I was going to ask, and I think you kind of answered. What would you think the root cause of some of these suicide rates and within the Indigenous community? And like I said, thank you so much for those stats, because they're not even in our peripheral. There's nowhere, not even my side view. And so now I'm more open to it and grateful to you. So how do you what are you advocating that we really need for those communities? And also, more importantly, do you equate the lack of what you shared with us to internal violence?
You know, there's a lot of different correlating issues that feed the issue at hand. The same thing with missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls. I mean, like I said, every issue that we face in our community, you know, is that if we talk about one issue, we have to talk about the stems that feed that issue. And so, for one, I think overall, and me as a person of faith, as a person who relies on prayer on just about everything that I do, is that it's a lack of hope, for one, in our communities. That's the overall problem. It's just a lack of hope. You know, people only see what they see, you know, and so if they live in an impoverished community where there's lack of resources, there's lack of pathways to justice, there's lack, you know, all these different elements, it's going to create an environment and a mindset that nothing can be changed and nothing can be done. And we believe in this mindset that, and it's just, you know, kind of like a small town mindset. They can't see the bigger picture, or they just don't have the, and I'm not saying everybody, because there's amazing advocates and heroes throughout Indian country that have championed many things for us. But I'm just saying the overall mentality is that nothing will change and everything will stay the same, because that's how it's always been for us on the reservation. You know, I seldom share this story, but you know, I like to, people always ask me, why do I do what I do? How did I get involved in this? Or how did I get involved in that? You know, and you know, over 10 years ago, when I started to do advocating for Indian country, you know, I just started out as somebody who was doing mission work. I was going through reservation to reservation, delivering food boxes and things for children and victim services. And basically that's how I started. But, you know, in my groundwork on serving different tribal communities in their needs, I was able to see what was going on basically at the grassroots level. And I'm still, you know, see what's going on the grassroots level. And it's overwhelming when you talk about the issues we face in Indian country. It's overwhelming to kind of try to identify and scope out a plan on how do we move forward towards healing or resolution. And so in my work and in my serving my own people, it took a lot out of me, because I had to hear, and I continue to have to hear, these stories after stories after story, devastating stories, heartbreaking stories from grandmothers and people. And I get emotional talking about it because I carry those stories with me. But in my own journey on doing the work that I do, in my own spiritual journey, in my prayer time, you know, one of the things I was looking for was a resolution and a pinpoint to start from. And one of the things that I got in my search of that, what to do, where do I start kind of thing, was to speak to the issue. And that's, it's 13 years, almost, you know, 15 years doing the work. I can tell you that I'm still here speaking to the issue, because just like you said, Reverend, these issues and these statistics are not even in your peripheral. So if they're not in your peripheral, or if this is your first time hearing about these statistics, then there's a lot more speaking to that needs to be done.
You're so right. And I agree with you. And so grateful that you have come on, because what you do is we find that there's a correlation in different communities that are similar, right? But if you don't know that your other brother is going through the same thing, how can you be, you know, not only sympathetic, but where you can help bring a rope, if you will, to help bring some resolution. And so we're really grateful, because you know, it's in my eye, you know. So I feel like, how can I help? Because also in all these communities, these underserved, at-risk communities, you know, if they're not, I always say, if they're not loved, you do create a subculture that embodies or incubates, if you will, ill behaviors or tragic stories, you know. And so and then the greater community look at and they say, oh, these people, like, no, it's a lack of, like you said, the attention that is needed. And thank God for your faith, because we all are God's children. So it is you that God is working through as well to bring this awareness to the segment of his children that need the same healing as anyone else does. And so grateful. I would like to open it up to any questions for Lynette. I see some from Wayne. Have you worked in making known beautiful cultural aspects of the Indian tribes practice? This would be a faith, art, ceremony such as the coming of age, boys, men, and girls, and women. What other example of the universal values? I hope I'm clear on this question. Do you catch the question?
Have I worked on something with the arts?
Well, I guess in essence it is saying accentuating in what you're going through, accentuating the tribal, the beauty of the tribes, so what the tribes have to offer to the greater and global community.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're most proud about is our culture, and our way of life, and how I always say this, but our world is very different than the outside world. Our value system is very different than the outside world. In the mainstream America, throughout our American culture and environment, there's different places and priority, like being successful, going to school, or accomplishing this and having drive, and all of these superficial targets. But in a tribal community, our traditional practices, our ceremonial way of how we live and how we connect with each other and our environment and everything around us, that is the center of who we are. We use our tradition, we use our dances, we use our culture as a way of life, every single day. And I think that's really hard for outside America to really understand that. And this is what brings us to humility, or a place of where we look at things differently. And, one of the aspects of me working with different tribal communities is I learned that we always had a bunch of outsiders that wanted to come into the communities and tell us how to live and tell us how to do this or XYZ. And though that type of methodology does not work, because you can't tell a group of people with rich culture and heritage how to live their lives. And this is the same thing what happened with assimilation, with the colonization. We're still fighting that today. So I think many people are aware of powwows and the different dances that we do. And people may come and watch a powwow and watch the many dances and things that we do. But again, our cultural way of life is an everyday thing for us, not just a one-day thing. And I think that's the uniqueness of who we are as Indigenous people. And, out of all of us, especially, we have survived so many things. We have overcame so many things, and we're just here to continue our legacy of carrying on the work and the heritage of our ancestors.
I have one other question from Uli, but also we have our president, who is the president of UPF. He's on as well. Now I'd like to ask Uli to just as she has a question, and then we wanted to hear from our president, who is waiting to also share his hopes and strengths with you as well. And I think she's put in, I think you said a little bit, I guess maybe just a little bit more in details. Can you please explain a bit about the work of your organization?
Oh, yes.
your practice and goals. Mhm.
Absolutely. So back in 2013, I created my nonprofit organization called Not Our Native Daughters. The purpose of me creating that was to do trainings for tribes and those entities that work for tribes, both the federal, state, and nonprofit levels. So I started out as a consultant training entity. I trained on human trafficking in Indian country, the protection of children, Indigenous children, and missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls. The reason why my first goal at that time was to educate tribes and those who work with tribes is because during that time, nobody was talking about MMIW. That acronym was not even known then. People thought human trafficking only happened in the cities and not in the rural or tribal communities. And I was aware of missing Native children and missing Native persons and women. So my goal at that time was to educate tribes, their social services, and then the ones who worked with tribes. It evolved over the years, and I've done more than just trainings. I still do trainings, but it just evolved over the years where I was able to do more than just do training, offer assistance. And what I've done in the last 2 years is my second year doing this, but because I am a national missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls nonprofit in this issue, I do have families of victims of MMIP reach out to me so that if they have to travel to another place or they have to travel to identify a body, unfortunately, or if they have to travel, for whatever reasons for their lost loved one, I offer support in their travel or lodging and things of that nature. It's a small way that I'm able to help because there is no other services out there on a federal, state, or even a nonprofit level that offers that. It's based upon if the funds are available and it's done by a case-by-case basis. However, again, that's just one role that I do. But one of the big things that I've always worked on in the last 10 years is research. When I started my nonprofit, I wasn't able to get funding because there is no research to back up to the issue that I'm speaking to. So I worked on different research projects. One of them was the Missing Murdered Indigenous Person research project in the state of Wyoming back in 2019. And then I have some other lined up projects, the gender pay gaps for Native American women. I'm looking forward to working on that in the next year, and then working to another project that is in the infancy stages, and I'm working with others on this, is to learn how to get tribal members that live on the reservation to register to vote, be educated how to vote. Of course, I ran for office here in my state, but one of the problems is we have to give rides to people to get to the polls. And again, that's just the poverty that we face in these issues. So I'm looking at issues and methodologies on how we can overcome that and how we can expand democracy by educating tribal communities on how to vote and then having a plan way ahead of time on making sure that Native vote gets out. So I wear many hats, throughout my nonprofit. But one thing I will say about an Indigenous-led nonprofit is that we're also the most underfunded and underserved, and we're not granted the grant capacity than other nonprofits that are out there, even from foundations, state or federal government grants. We are not considered, or we get a really small percentage of that, but yet Native Americans have the most worst statistics in the nation, and we're the most marginalized group in the country, but we get the least funding. So that's also a battle for me as being a nonprofit.
I just want to say one other thing before he comes on, is that you're sharing these plethora of things that you're doing and organizations that you've put on and outreaches that you are conducting and all that. And I just wanted to ask you a question. Did you just graduate from high school?
No, but thank you. I'm 25 years old and I'm proud to say it. I have no problems telling people my age. I've been doing this a long time, but thank you, Reverend.
Yes.
You made my day.
Let us welcome our Reverend Jenkins. This Reverend Jenkins is the UPF president of UPF here in the United States and in the area and international. Welcome, Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Reverend Oliver. I can't thank you enough for this program. Every week we're having such significant speakers, and I really want to thank beloved Lynette Graybull. You were very, very moving, and we want to support you and help you with your work. And it's so critical, and we all need to learn directly from the family that's going through all these challenges historically in America and even now. People do not understand. And I've been lucky to my wife is very involved with the Cheyenne Arapaho Nation, and Dr. Linda Nishikawa is also Indigenous leader that's very prominent with the work that similar to what you're doing in terms of educating people and serving people and helping people. And there's no limit to what can happen if we help our brothers and sisters. I long for that day when we have the first Indigenous president of the United States. I think that day will come sooner than later. I found incredible depth. It's so important that America understands this is our family as Americans. We're trying to dissolve all those barriers. So I just have one question for you. Lynette, what can UPF do to support you? What's the best thing we could do right now to support your great work and your nonprofit?
I have a twofold answer to that. The first one, like I stated before, is help me spread the message. Help me get, in places. And, I've been in rooms where I spoke to 5 people and I spoke to 1,000 people, and it doesn't matter the audience. It doesn't matter the amount. It matters the heart of the people who are willing to step up and help make a difference and help make a change. And we only change the world by people who are willing to do that and step up and we all have a different role to play. You can be a funder, you can be a supporter, or you can be a bridge maker. And so, yes, I need to help spread the message far and wide, knock on every door, scream on every rooftop, so to speak. And then, of course, the funding for me to continue this message and continue the work that I do.
That's so great. Wow. What more could we ask for? But to learn from you and spread this message well. And if you can put your organization in the chat or where we can donate, I would like to encourage everybody to donate. And, we now have the highest ranking Indigenous leader in American history is now the Secretary of the Interior. And it's kind of amazing because she lives right across the hallway from my daughter. My daughter bought a home in a condominium complex, and she's right across the hallway. She's the most wonderful person. She was a U.S. Congresswoman, and that's great. We can work together. And thank you for working at every level of government. Very, very inspiring. And would like to know more about your family and your history, and we'll be inviting you back soon. Thanks, Reverend Oliver. And thank you, Lynette. You very much inspired us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Again, thank you, Lynette Graybull. One of the things that you did, thanks so much, Dr. Jenkins. One of the things that you did say that I thought was so apropos was the research, the need for that research to give credence to what you are trying to do, and that's so important. To prove it, to show it, to give the stats to it. So it gives it much more credence. So, I wanted to thank you in putting that together. And we do look forward to, working with you. And, what I'm doing too with this is how do we bring a collective body of all these wonderful best practices together? And not everyone has you have your individual, but sometimes we can learn from each other. And in that learning process, we can touch the nation, not only just one community, but the national community, because the national community will be the catalyst, if you will, for the individual communities. You see, because on a national level, we see some best practicing. It's just like today, I'm hoping on our live, I know we have a certain amount here, but on our recording live, you know, a lot of people probably just like myself and Dr. Jenkins and the rest of the people here didn't know those stats, you know, about our Native American brothers and sisters here in America. So does anyone have any other questions? You put it in the chat, but you can also unmute if you have. Daryl, Reverend Franklin, like to share. He did mention, did you have a website? But go ahead, Reverend Franklin.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Dr. Jenkins, Reverend Oliver, and also Lynette. God bless you. Thank you so much. You are so courageous in the work in which you're doing. And I just have to really be prayerful right now because I'm on the verge of kind of losing it, you know. This is very
Could you
close to
put
my
him
heart.
on, please?
This is very close to my heart. Yeah, because this is so important that we support this because this is a key toward the healing of our soul, of America. We absolutely, I mean, on both sides of my family, my mom's side and also my dad's side, I have Native American blood, Indian blood in both sides of my family. And so I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing because this is so important. This education and all these statistics, they need to be given out there. They need, because we have suffered spiritually.
Yeah.
Because we have whitewashed history so much that we are on the verge of losing our own identity. We're on the verge of losing our soul. This is something that we need to take care of. As we do this, America will continue to go towards a trajectory of healing.
Yeah.
And you're on the right path. Just continue to put out that information and allow us to, you know, get access to your website so we can learn more, so we can empower you and you can get the finances, staff that you need so that we can work to help create this one nation under God in
That's
truth,
right.
one family under God, because we're all brothers and sisters. We're all related in some way, shape, or fashion. And we just cannot continue to go on as a people, as a civilized people, and to allow ourselves to become content when others are suffering like this. And it's apparent that we do not allow ourselves to become complacent while other people are suffering. Right. So I just wanted to say these things and thank you so much for what you're doing. God bless you.
Thank you. I'm overwhelmed with your words. Thank you.
Go ahead. What were you saying? I'm sorry, Lynette.
Oh, I just said I thanked them. I was overwhelmed by his words. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I see one hand, Dr. Lee. I just wanted to say it's true what he said. You know, we have Indian American, he does, I do too. But we don't know anything about that. You know, that's why I'm saying, well, what? I didn't even know all of that. So let's, but I'm glad we've come aware of it. Thank you so much. Dr. Linda Nishikawa, would you like to share something open? How are you? Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for coming on. I'm so grateful for your words. I am Pueblo Hunka Lakota, and I've been working as an elder, actually in 4 different organizations in Denver. And I have traveled to Wind River several times to do outreach on, it was Colorado Department of Health where I was working at that went out and did work there. But I am very much, I very much commend you for your work. I know very clearly of your work. I don't know if you could see this, but
I can, yeah.
You know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what it is. You
I
already
do.
know what it is. Yeah, so I'm very much a supporter of that. And I am a partner with UPF. As Dr. Jenkins mentioned, I run an organization called Sacred First Nations for Peace. And intertribally, of the 575 nations, we acknowledge each one as unique and special in the Creator's eyes. But intertribally, we have so much we need to give the healing, and that's where I'm working at, is that intertribal healing that needs to take place in the home with the parents, and with the parents being strong for the community, for Teoshpai, and for all the ceremonies that we do. Being Pueblo, I know a lot of my ceremonies are very private and we can't share, but truly, we have incredible strength.
Yeah.
And I want to commend you for truly addressing, especially the systemic ignorance and the systemic, since people came here 500 years ago. We've been here thousands of years. My ancestors date back to the time of Jesus here. So when you talk about systemic ignorance and systemic awareness, and also the pushback, the continuous pushback, like, we don't want to hear you, we don't want to hear you, we don't want to hear you, we don't want to see you, we don't want to know those statistics, we don't want to hear that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Yeah.
And so that's what I bring to Sacred First Nations for Peace. And I want you to be an honorary member. Again, I want to get your information and invite you to be part of that healing, to be part of that healing within the nations that are happening right now. The greatest strength is our people. The greatest strength and the resilience and the wholeness that we receive have come from my people, have come from my grandfather, come from my mother and father. Those are the things that have brought me to this day. And so I'm very grateful. You're a beautiful young woman, and I know that you're going to do great things. And I just want to, I hope to get more information so I could speak to you more about this. But I'm truly an advocate here in Oregon and in Colorado for missing, murdered Indigenous women, as I know one who was taken and terrible things and then murdered. Yeah. So it's not something, when we talk about, I just want to tell everybody, when we talk about, it's not something that's way out there. No, this is our family. This is our community we're talking about. These are people we know. When we talk about missing, murdered Indigenous women, we know them. Mm-hmm. We know relatives of them. It's not something way out there. So I really hope that you could bring people, Lynette, with me to go beyond the powwow, beyond our beautiful regalia, which represents the Creator, which represents our ancestors, to go beyond that and really look at the statistics of what's happening in our communities. So I look forward to working with you in the future. And I will give you my phone number. I'll put it on the chat right now, so you could call me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I'm honored by your words and you sharing what you have shared. I think we all have so much to say because we haven't been given the space to say what's on our heart and, what we're facing. And you're right, just to kind of, concur what you said. Most of us, I know I have more than one person that's been murdered or been missing in my own family. And you can meet any Native American in this country. They can live in the city or they can live on the reservation or live somewhere else, but they also know somebody who's been murdered or been missing. And most of the times, probably 80% of those cases have never had justice. So you are right about that. This is something very personal to us. This is a very emotional, but it's also a spiritual battle that we face because nobody's doing anything about it. So right. I agree with you. And I'm in Denver a lot because my son lives down in Denver. He works down at the public defender's office. And so I look forward to meeting with you, and I'm honored to join your efforts in anything that I can do.
Thank you.
Reverend Oliver, can I share a little bit of
Oh, please,
my experience?
Nassar. Thank
Hi, Dr. Leonard. My name is Nasser Samarad. I'm from Iran. And this is my wife, Uli, from Germany. And actually, she is the one that she invited you for this program.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you for accepting our invitation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when I married Uli, then I heard that she came to America to meet American Indian. And actually, she wanted to marry the American Indian. Then I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going in big trouble because she's in love with American Indian, not Iranian.
Oh
But
my God.
somehow I married in this movement, unification movement. I don't know how much you know about it. And I'm in charge of UPF with my wife in Los Angeles right now. But anyway, Uli dragged me to many American Indian powwow and dancing and share with me about the history of American Indian. And I become a little bit more and more interested. But today, you really convinced me that American Indian are great people. They have so much to share. And this land actually was belonging to them. That I escaped from Iran in 1982 from my country because my country was under, revolution and pressure and, the situation that even now you can hear that. So today you really touched my heart, and I can say you brought tears to my eyes, and I really thank you. And also, especially I thank you to Uli that she connected to American India and educated me about, the culture, the history of American Indian. So I really have great respect for you and your work. And I will figure out how we can support you, me and Uli in Los Angeles. So anytime you have a chance to come to Los Angeles, please call us. I'm pretty good to make shish kebab, Iranian food.
Yes.
And good meeting with you. Anyway, thank you so much, and God bless you. God bless your heart. You're doing a wonderful job. Beautiful, beautiful meeting.
Thank you so
You want to
much.
share? Maybe Uli want to say something too. Come on, she's so inspired. Yeah.
I just said thank you. That's all. Please, Uli, please.
Okay.
No, it's all good.
Okay.
She,
Mm.
she
Yeah,
is,
so
I think she is German American Indian. I can say that. She's so much into God bless you.
Yeah, Lynette Mopila, thank you for coming on and informing us today.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I really hope that we can work together more.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I need all the help that I can get. So thank you. I'm humbled.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for your sharing. The floor is still open. Anybody like to share something else
Yeah, Reverend,
with
I would.
Lynette?
I have a
Can we
question.
spotlight, is EJ there so I can know who's talking?
It's John O'Connor.
Oh, John O'Connor. Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here, and your courage is marvelous, and I hope God continues to give you courage. For me, looking at these issues is really tough. Over the years, I've had conversation with different brothers and sisters about how we wish things could have been done differently in America and how we came to this land and tried to develop, and we just missed many opportunities. And so it's hard to think that, and it's hard to look at the issues as you present them. And, you mentioned many ways which you're trying to outreach. I wonder, what have you done with filmmaking? Is that documentary kind of thing? Because that's a powerful thing. We study different things with crime, and you watch prison reform in different documentaries, and it's so powerful to learn that way and understand what's going on and what are the good things can be done, with your situation. So I wonder what your experiences with that, or what possibility is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've only did small pieces in different documentaries that are out there. I believe I'm in like 5 different documentaries that I've been in, and over the years, I guess there's one that is out there. I was with where I was interviewing Secretary, or then at the time, Congressional Deb Haaland in her office, and we were talking about this issue. And again, it was just a snippet of interview bites, but a full on a documentary I have not done. I've worked on other documentaries as a tribal liaison, where I took the staff and the filmers to different tribal communities, and I was a bridgeway for them. I reached out to the council, I reached out to the people in that tribe, and made sure it was okay, for us to come and film and interview. And so I've worked in that aspect behind the scenes of documentary projects. And so, no, it's something that, I love documentaries. I watch documentaries all the time. I think it spreads a message louder than anything else because it tells a story. And one of the things that I always say is that us as Indigenous people should be able to tell our own story. If you go to the universities, if you go to other areas, you will find non-natives telling our stories. And I think it should be us that tell our, us, me as a Lakota, traditionally, I've been raised and taught to pass down oral history stories throughout our family, and we're storytellers. This is just who we are. And I would long to see a documentary where we're able to have that space and that platform where we're able to tell our stories from our perspective, and not have anybody kind of hone in on that, because our tragedies and our pain and our tears is ours, and it should be ours to share that.
Just one more thing. We have one brother who's a unificationist in Montana, and he goes to the reservation every week, Monday through Friday, and does teaching during the day and touring during the night. I'm sorry, I don't know what tribe it is, but he's been doing that for like 15 years or something. But it seemed like that would also be a good place to do a documentary, someone going in there trying to help out. And I know some of the problems he said. It's very limited how much education they get, and it's just such a limited kind of ability. It seemed like to go beyond, just junior college level, So, but yeah, I think you've got to find a way to do documentaries. That's really a powerful way to get out.
I agree. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Brother O'Connor. Thank you so much. Anyone else? We have a few more minutes to share and open up.
I have a question.
Sure.
Oh, hi, Lynette. Thank you so much for coming on. Say, I think I heard you say you have to bribe people to go to the polls. Was I understanding that correctly? And if so, could you explain what you meant by that?
I did not say bribe, not at all.
Oh, okay.
She said give them a ride. Yeah, give them
Right.
a ride.
Oh, get a ride. Oh, okay.
Oh my.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I was thinking, what?
Yeah. All right. Yes.
Well, I'm glad that you don't have to bribe people to go to the polls.
Okay, me neither.
Amen.
I wouldn't want to do that.
Amen. Yeah. So, that should be an issue. But I heard that. I remember you saying that that's so incredibly. It's like a impediment, if you will, because you don't have the necessary vehicles to get those people who probably want to vote, but it's just so hard to get those people out there, especially in rural areas. And I do appreciate what you just said too. And I thought about what you were talking, and that was that, we don't think about trafficking out of the American or Native American reservations who probably are more rural areas. We mostly think about them in bigger cities, but in reality, out in rural areas, they're like sitting ducks because they're in rural areas and places like that.
And it's because of, it's to add to that, it's because of the extreme poverty. One of the things I always say is anywhere in the world where you find extreme poverty, you will find, unfortunately, the selling of children and the selling of people. And that's no different. Tribal communities are no different when it comes to exploitation. I think Native youth, women in general, are more prone to exploitation because of the need of survival, the need to be able to survive. Whether they're exploiting themselves, some exploit their own family members, or a trafficker or pimp who is a sociopath comes in and exploits their needs. And we see that time and time again. And how that happens for our children, though, and our youth is through social media, Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram. This is how traffickers and pimps are coercing and tricking our youth off of the reservation and put into the human trafficking circuit that we have here in the United States. But some of our circuits go overseas as well. So, I mean, that's a whole nother bigger conversation. But what I'm saying is Native American youth have been rescued out of the human trafficking circuit. And, things like pornography, Pornhub, escort services, massage services that offer sexual services, this all adds to the issue. And for those who support those and supporters who engage in those are, also supporting the human trafficking crisis that we face here in our country.
What an earful. And as everyone has said, what a heartful of information that we have received. You are now officially on at least my radar. You're left the peripheral into the radar. So, because I think that eventually we all can help each other.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
we have to help each other because there's some overlaying and overlapping situations that are applicable to any African-American community or Hispanic community, or, there's some overlapping and some are distinctions. Very distinct, nuances, I call little nuances, but some are overlapping and we have to help each other. As we close, would you like to give some closing remarks?
Just like you stated, what we've seen in the civil rights movement throughout the Black community and what we've seen through Hispanic communities, there is some overlapping efforts there because we're all fighting for equality and inclusion to some level or to a certain extent. Like my hero, Dr. Martin Luther King, I too have a dream where these efforts are able to be collaborative forces. If Indigenous advocates like myself or Indigenous groups are advocating for equality and inclusion in this area, and then we have Black Lives Matter or other entities fighting for equality inclusion over here, how much more meaningful and how much more powerful can we be if we join our forces together? Our passion, our intellect, our organizing skills, things that have been successful for us in the past, and we've come together, and not just come together on a grassroots level, but come together on a legislative level, come together on a going to Capitol Hill and making substantial change and speaking to those in Senate and House who can make those changes for us. I think the day we come together and start joining our forces, the day is we're going to see some substantial change throughout our country. So that's one of my dreams, and that's something that I'm going to work towards until the end of my life.
Thank you, my dear sister. So well put. And I just want to give you a prophecy, and that is that God will elevate you and catapult you in the political system so you can help usher in those type of legislations, inclusive and collaboration, others that are out there who have the same heart and the same sympathy and same appreciation for what needs to be done. Yeah. So anyway, again, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. It was just a pleasure. You did touch all of our hearts. And I work with Darryl Franklin, one who spoke, and he had to turn off his camera because he was moved to tears. And I know you were too. God bless everyone. Thank you so much, Uli, for reaching out to this gem, this diamond, Lynette Great Bull. We love you. We love our American Indian. And God bless you. God bless America.
Thank you all. God bless you.
See you next week.
Thank you so much.
Everybody. It was a wonderful day. My God.
Thank you so much, Reverend Oliver.
It was beautiful. Thank you, Lynette.
Thank you, Lynette.
Thank you,
Lynette.
Thank you,
Well,
Thank you for sharing for this.
Thank you, Reverend Oliver.
good, Carrie.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen.
Behold,
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Behold, the
All
Native
right, God
American
bless
version
everybody.
of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you for your time. Thank you
One
for
family, God.
everybody's beautiful, inspirational feedback. I needed it.
Oh, God bless you.
I
Okay.
needed
God
it.
bless. Yeah.
Yes, honey.
Thank you.
You're doing
Yes,
good work.
God bless you.
Don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah,
Doing great
God
work.
bless you.
Yeah.
Yes,
God
thank
to
you
be
so
with
much.
you.
Mhm.
You're in our prayers.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah. That's right.
All right, everyone. God bless. Okay.
So
Okay.
that
God bless.
Thank you.
We love you. Love you. Is she gone?
She's gone. She left. She was overwhelmed. Well, you know,
Well,
we have a beautiful community, and we have a very unique spirit that contributes to all our speakers, and they can feel it. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
We love you.